Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. Why did you block me? The buyer from TCG player asks. And I have kind of two lines of reasoning to explain this. And I think the first one is the one that's a lot more palatable to people. We have this kind of obvious idea if you go to a restaurant and there's a roach in your soup, well, you're not going to go back to that restaurant. And if you go to a grocery store and all their produce is rotten, you're going to stop going to that grocery store. And nobody thinks that's particularly controversial. If there's somebody on TCG Player that I buy from and they don't do a good job or there's something wrong or whatever and I can't get it resolved through TCG Player, you better believe I'm not going to buy from them again. But when we talk about a business firing customers, everybody just loses their mind. Like everybody has this idea in their head that customers are entitled to purchase from a business even if the business doesn't want to do it. If the business thinks, man, that customer, he is a pain in the butt and I don't want to work with him anymore. And so, when I sell cards on TCG Player, and I'll say I kind of know what I'm doing. My main seller account, the Final Trade account on TCG Player, it has 50,000 positive feedback, 2 negative feedback, all lifetime. And one of those 2 is because USPS destroyed the package. So basically, I did something egregious enough to get a negative feedback on TCG Player once in 50,000 transactions. Now, on this second account that I help the owners of sell some Pokemon cards that they have, a bunch of nice old Pokemon cards, it's up to something like a bit over 400 positive feedback and 0 negative feedback lifetime. Okay, so I kind of have this game of selling on TCG Player worked out. And even when it comes to something as nuanced as old cards that have been played with that you have to condition, that's really the toughest thing that sellers go through on TCG Player is correctly conditioning cards. So when we sell cards to you and there's a disagreement between us as the sellers and the buyers over the product they received, it's not because we are careless. It's not because we're new to this and we don't know what we're doing. It's not because we're not familiar with TCG Player's guidelines of what the definition of near mint is, which, yes, by the way, they do actually have written guidelines that tell you that near mint cards can be scratched. They can have damage on them and still be near mint. They are near mint. They are not PSA Gem Mint 10. But we're aware of all of that. And we've run the business very, very successfully in light of all of it, and we know what we're doing. And so if a buyer messages us and says, well, there's a problem with the order and I don't agree with the conditioning, it means that at a fundamental level, we as the sellers and that buyer are not going to agree because we're not doing this willy-nilly. We're not just throwing stuff out the door. We know exactly what we're doing. And if the buyer does not agree with us that those cards were whatever condition they ordered, well, we're never going to see eye to eye, ever. And we can't have that person as a buyer. Because what it would mean is that if they come back and buy from us again in the future, they're going to disagree with us again in the future. We just don't see eye to eye and we're not going to. And that's why we block every buyer who disagrees with us on the condition of a card. They get blocked and they can't buy from us anymore. And, part of that reason is not just the kind of philosophical, if we disagree on the definitions of how these things are done, but there's the financial reason. We're here to make money. And so TCG Player says that when there's a disagreement, the seller has to pay to return the cards. Well, there's nothing right or wrong about that. There's nothing good or bad about it. It's simply TCG Player has said that's how they want their marketplace to work. And we on the seller side have said we agree to that in order to be sellers and to access this marketplace. And so when someone buys cards and they're looking for PSA Gem Mint 10 because they bought 15 copies of something and they're looking to get some of them graded, and then they decide that maybe 2 of them are worth grading and they want to return the other 13, and you get them back and they're all very nice, clean, near mint copies, well, we still have to pay to have those cards shipped back to us, even though there was nothing wrong with the cards. And again, 400 plus positive feedback on this account selling Pokemon cards and 0 negatives lifetime. And then my main account, 50,000 positive lifetime, 2 negative. And my direct rate of, how would you describe this? The rate at which I mess up cards in the direct program is about 0.2 of 1%, which means I make a mistake once out of about every 500 cards I fulfill to direct. And that includes all mistakes, like miscounting the cards, just not having the card in my inventory because I miscounted when I was entering the inventory. Those aren't all conditioning errors. So we have to pay as the sellers to have the card shipped back to us, even when the complaint is completely frivolous. And so even in cases where the buyer does, with good faith, believe that they did not get what they ordered, the seller still has to pay to ship it back. And we're not going to see eye to eye with that buyer ever. And so on future orders, we simply open ourselves up with that buyer to having to pay again to have our card shipped back to us because their definition of the conditioning standards does not match ours. And so it's just a fundamental disagreement that cannot be resolved. And that's why you must block the buyers. It has nothing to do with hating the buyers or anything like that. Like, we're here to sell cards. The second issue is when let's take this example that happened a couple days ago that really got me kind of hot on this issue. We sold 7 near mint Pokemon cards to a buyer. Okay. He gets the cards and he messages us and he says, well, 4 of these are maybe near mint plus at best, or light play plus at best. And the other 3 they're definitely moderate play. Can I get a discount or something? Okay. Again, he ordered 7 near mint cards. We know what we're doing. We don't send out nonsense. We're here to sell the cards and keep them sold. And so I know that he and I disagree on the definitions of the cards, but if he's coming back and saying 0 out of those 7 are near mint, the definitions that he is using and the definitions we are using are so far apart, we cannot have that guy as a customer. He is the most problematic type of customer there is. If he is the person saying that 0 out of the 7 cards are near mint. And so in that case, if it's a situation where, let's say they order 7 cards and they have a complaint about one of them. They say one of them, I think this is light play and it was an $80 card. And when they order $80 cards, they look them over, they go through them with a fine-tooth comb, right? And so they really expect them to be top notch. And we have 400 plus positive feedback with 0 negative lifetime. We know what we're doing. And so when they order that $80 card and they think it's light play, it's customary that the way you resolve these things on TCG Player is you say, look, well, you paid $80 for the near mint copy of this card, and today the market price of the light play is $50. We'll give you the $30 difference as a refund, and you can keep the card, or you can ship the card back. We'll have to pay to ship it back, but then you'll get the whole discount. And sometimes they don't want the card unless it's near mint. Sometimes they're fine keeping it because they're great looking cards that we thought were near mint, and they get a discount. Either way, they get blocked because they disagree at the fundamental level with the way that we run our business. And so that's how you usually handle those kind of cases. You block the buyer and you do the little discount. But when this gentleman comes and he says 0 out of 7 of the cards were near mint, I don't want that person as a buyer ever again. And so I also don't want to play the game with giving them a refund, wasting a bunch of time going through all 7 cards, figuring what's the near mint value of these and what's the moderate play value of the ones he says are moderate play, and let me add all that stuff up, and I gotta type that into a no, fuck that shit. Okay? What we do is we go back to our shipping program and we find his order and we click it and we say purchase return label. And then we say generate hyperlink. And then all you respond with is we send them a response and we say, here's a link to a return shipping label, return the cards and we'll refund your money. We do not even give the option on a buyer like that who says we got 0 out of 7 correct. We do not even give him the option to keep any of the cards. We want him gone. We want him gone permanently, and we want him gone permanently quickly, easily, with the least amount of time wasted, because that kind of buyer is an absolute waste of time to serious businesses that are trying to make money. So we send him a return shipping label through a hyperlink, and we get the cards back and we refund him and he's blocked, and that's it. And, it's nothing personal. We're just trying to make money here. And like I said, there's nothing right or wrong about the sellers being responsible for the return shipping cost. It's just the way the marketplace is set up, and we've agreed to those rules in order to play here. But we have to pay those costs, even when the buyers are, in some cases, clueless about the fact that you are allowed to have damage on the cards, and they still count as near mint according to TCG Players rules. And so I know this is kind of like, it's a controversial subject for people who have never run a business, and for people who think that businesses should not be allowed to fire customers, but it's perfectly fine for customers to fire businesses. And I agree both ways. And I know there are people who don't want to deal with me as a customer. There's got to be someone somewhere who does not want Craig from Final Trade as a customer, and that person will fire me from their business, and that's fine. I'll go find someone else to buy from. But some people think it's a really controversial stance, but the reality is we're trying to run businesses, we're trying to make money here, and when we run into buyers like that, they're just going to cost us money, and worse, they cost us time. Because it's not $4 for a return shipping label that's really the problem. It's that I've got to look at the situation. I've got to go figure out, should we give a refund? I've got to type it up. I have to go through the form on TCG Player. I have to fill in the fields on the form, and then I have to submit it, and I'll probably have to deal with a follow-up anyway. It's too much of a pain for nothing. It's a whole bunch of effort to lose money, giving a discount on a card that we already assessed was near mint. And again, 400 plus with 0 negative feedback, we kind of know what we're doing. So maybe for some buyers out there who have never experienced the seller side of things, either on TCG Player specifically or in general in life, maybe that'll give a little bit of perspective. This one particular buyer, we blocked him because he wanted to return. It was something like 2 out of 8 cards. He wanted to return them. We sent him a label. He shipped them back. They looked great. They went back in our inventory as near mint to sell again, and we blocked him. And several days later, he followed up through the ticket to ask us, why did you block me? Well, because you cost us money on a product that is supposed to stay sold, that we think is near mint, and that 400 plus other buyers agreed with our assessments of near mint. So that's why. So what I would want people to take away from this, obviously, if you're a seller on TCG Player, what you need to take away from this is there are way more buyers on the platform than there are sellers, especially when it comes to things like clean, old 20-year-old Pokemon cards, yeah, there are a lot more buyers than there are sellers. And if you're a seller, it is a-okay to block buyers. You are not going to hurt your business one bit by blocking them. It is not going to hurt you at all. You will not run out of buyers. If you're a buyer, what I would want you to take away from this is go search Google for TCG Player Conditioning Guide and read TCG Player's document on what the different conditions actually mean, and see you can have damage on cards and it can still be near mint. It is not PSA Gem Mint 10 to be near mint on TCG Player. So that's what I would want buyers to take away and understand that, yeah, you buy near mint, but that doesn't mean it's going to grade a 10. It doesn't mean it's pristine. It doesn't mean it's flawless. It doesn't mean it magically floated from the factory on high to you with no damage. That's very, very, very rare. And you're probably not going to find it that often on TCG Player. Now, something really interesting happened because I kind of talked on this subject a month, maybe 6 weeks ago. And one of the things I had suggested at the time was specifically to those buyers on TCG Player who are looking to find cards to grade from TCG Player. First off, like, that's a bad idea. But I had suggested in the video that you just go to local card stores and ask to see the cards. And that way you can see them in person. You can see the centering. You can reflect the light off of them and see the surface condition and the scratches and the dings and everything else. And I actually had someone message me a couple days ago and say that they took that advice from that video. And I was so excited because, like, I had kind of put that video out a little bit irritated at the situation that had kind of brought it about. But to hear that somebody had been like, yeah, I actually watched that video and then went to some local stores, bought cards, sent them for grading, and a couple of them came back as 10s. And it's like, that's amazing. Like, that's what I want to do, is reach people, have a couple of them listen once in a while and act on it, and then succeed from acting on that advice. The last thing I'll talk about is whitening. Yes, whitening. Let me, let's see. Do I have a card around here? Here's one. Oh, what do we got? Samurott. Yeah, Samurott. I don't know. What is this? Samurott, Lord knows. Yeah. This is made out of cardboard. Now, little known secret, cardboard is a type of paper. Most paper during the manufacturing process is bleached white so that it appears clean, so that the color is even, so that when they then apply dyeing chemicals to it, they have a stable, consistent place to start from color-wise, so that after applying dyes to it, it looks consistent. So most paper is bleached during the manufacturing process. Cardboard is made out of layers of paper that are bonded together in various ways, depending on the type of cardboard. And when you cut cardboard, you will see those white layers on the edge. And once in a while, we get a buyer who says, this card had whitening around the edges. Guys, it's paper. When you cut it, after it's been printed with the yellow front border and the blue back border, you cut it, you will see white on the edge in between the yellow and blue. It's paper, and it's white. It's bleached during manufacture. That's where the whitening comes from, and it's normal. And if you want to return a card over it, you will be blocked. Let me know what you think, guys. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade. Keep on trucking, guys.